perfectly at peace. Except she could still hear the screaming. She searched, but the wrongness was gone. Her awareness was secure. She turned inward and found something she had not anticipated. The delicate motes of lavender. The lovely and mesmerizing tracery of light was part of her now. And so were the screams. Chapter 1. "Can't you make him shut up?" Alexei Trevelyan cast a startled glance at the man who had spoken and felt his lip begin to curl. It wasn't that he disagreed with the sentiment. He'd been considering the same question for the past 5 days, ever since their party of 3 left Avonlea by way of the King's Road to the north. But it was the first time his bitter, angry cousin had spoken since the start of their journey, and Alexei had no intention of encouraging him. Not to mention he'd be damned before he let Porphyry know that they agreed about something. Even if that something happened to be Malachi Cherting, the 3rd member of their party, who was currently warbling his way through yet another pathetic ballad of tragic heroism in a resonant baritone that could probably be heard from one side of Andar to the other. If it was anything like the last 47 of its kind, the song probably featured 24 epic verses and a tear-jerking refrain. Alexei looked back over his shoulder and marvelled once more at the sight of King Hollin's chosen emissary. Malachi had been solemnly entrusted with the safety of the king's Erathi guests, and with protecting Andari interests once their party crossed the border. Now, flushed and exuberant, the leather-clad warrior rode unheeding down the centre of the road, head thrown back and arms flung wide as he bellowed the final words of the 4th verse. At least Alexei thought it was the 4th. He could have missed 1 or 2 while envisioning his next conversation with the Andari king, who had never once mentioned that his chosen ambassador was of a musical inclination. 5 days, Porphyry hissed. "If he keeps this up, I'll have no choice but to throw myself off this horse and pray that it kills me." Alexei refused to allow his face to show his feelings. Instead, he reined his mount sharply and dropped back to ride next to the Andari, who paused his song and smiled. The peaceful smile of a satisfied man with nothing more to want in life. Malachi Cherting was very possibly the biggest man Alexei had ever met. He was at least a head taller than Alexei himself, and twice as wide. His hair and beard were both long and brown, with only a few strands of grey, though Alexei would have sworn the other man was a good bit older than he. One would need far more than 36 years to accumulate such a vast knowledge of the worst romantic ballads known to the world. "I would take it as a personal favour if you would sing the rest of this song as loudly as possible," Alexei said with a courteous nod. "Full court version, if you know it." "It would be my pleasure," Malachi answered, his expression deeply serious, almost reverent. "It's a great pity you cannot experience the intended harmonies. The last 17 verses represent some of the most beautiful and moving work from the early foundations of Andari epic poetry." "I look forward to hearing it." Alexei admitted to himself that those who knew him best, which was not to say well, might have been surprised to discover how petty he could be. The thought did not disturb him as much as it probably should have. He had earned his revenge, petty and otherwise. "Perhaps after the final verse we might find a place to camp," he continued. Petty he might be, but not dangerously insane. 17 more verses was as far as he was prepared to go for retribution's sake. Malachi nodded and burst into song once more, while patting the neck of his remarkably impassive mount with spiked leather gauntlets. The enormous piebald mare, who stood several hands taller than Alexei's own horse and had hooves the size of Alexei's head, seemed well used to her master's eccentricities. Or perhaps she approved, considering that she wore her mane in braids and answered to the name of Laureline. With the tiniest of smiles, Alexei urged his horse into a trot and returned to the side of his cousin, who shot him a murderous glare from under lowered eyelids before returning to the stoic silence that had marked their journey to that point. A pale, hunched man who appeared some 15 years Alexei's senior, Porphyry was actually a mere 3 years older. He was several inches shorter and a great deal lighter, but despite their differences, despite the bitter set to Porphyry's pale...